Greetings to the world, greetings to the universe, greetings to anybody out there that's listening. This is the Real Resilience Talk podcast, where we keep it honest, raw, and real about the subject of resilience. What is it? How do we get it? How do we maintain it? How do we sustain it? And hopefully you walk away better from listening to it. I got to tell you, you might hear a bad word or two. It just happens sometimes, but I hope that you'll hear a good word 3 or 4. You understand what I'm saying? I also want to tell y'all that I am sponsored by nobody, baby. No ads on this. If you ever get an ad, it wasn't my liking. I didn't do nothing about it. I don't get no money off of this. This is just for the love of heart work, not hard work, heart work. So we're out here, and I want you to understand, too, that we're inspired by the First Amendment. So you might hear some things, and I hope it helps you, right? Or I hope it helps somebody in your circle or something like that. But we're just trying to figure this thing out. So with that being said, this is no endorsement from, affiliation with any official organizations. We may reference our experiences or things that we've done in our lifetime, but please know that we are not a direct affiliate or endorsement from any official organization. So why am I saying that? So y'all don't try to get me canceled. How about that? Hey, yeah. But I'm going to shut up. Y'all know my spiel. Y'all know what I've said resilience is to me. But I got here today. I got a TED Talk. I got a veteran of the TED Talk. I got a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. I got a warrior out here trying to make a difference for people out here. I got Mr. Garret Biss, man. Thank you, sir, for being here. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Coach Cam. I appreciate it. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Even just everything you just said there in the first couple minutes. I mean, there's so much to unpack on that. You know, this is about real resilience. And the most important part I think about that is the real part. And as you talked about, like, whatever words need to come out to express how we really feel, that's the most important thing to come out, because there's somebody out there who's thinking something and they're afraid to share it, or they're afraid to let other people know what they're thinking. And that creates a lot of challenges for us, you know, our intrapersonal challenges, the mental health challenges, when we got to hold things inside. So the more that we can give that platform and permission to share that voice, to share share that dark shit that's in there, man, you get that stuff out, because that's the pathway to healing. And that's the pathway to the resilience. So I'm really excited about this, man.
I appreciate it. You know, I've said this often, but, you know, people tell me what they offend me. And I'm like, you know, you might get offended by some language, but I think it's all in the context in which you use it. Are you saying it with malice? But you know what really offends me, Garret? Our dead bodies. What really offends me is people not reaching their full potential. What really offends me is sexual assault. What really offends me is harmful behaviors, and our veterans and just our fellow Americans and humans on this planet not living to their full potential because they're held back, because they're not keeping it real, and we're trying to make everything sound pretty and put it on a PowerPoint. But sometimes we just got to be real and raw and say life sucks, and how can I get through this? You know, all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I've been thinking a lot about this, especially around the start of the year, the word authenticity and really what that means. And there's a lot of ways that authenticity, I think, are related to or connected with resilience. And I think if there's what do they say, like a unifying theory that ties together all the mental health and all the physiological challenges that a person might experience in their life, I believe this unified theory is that a divergence from our authenticity, a divergence from our authentic self, a divergence from our gut feelings, from our true core desires, wants, and needs. When we diverge from that, and then we start off on this new path of social expectations and thinking, you know, and showing up in a way that we feel we're supposed to in order to get what we need. If we start off on that path, the delta, or the difference between our authentic self and that path that we're on, or who we're showing up as, that's the breeding ground. That's where all this mental health challenges, that's where all the physiological challenges or diseases that are inspired by, or the groundwork laid for those physiological diseases from the mental health or that intrapersonal struggle that's going on. And that, you know, that ties back to the resilience. The more that you are strained because you're wearing all these masks and you're trying to meet other people's expectations, and you're allowing your dreams to die on the vine, and you're not doing things that are really filling up your joy cup because you got to take care of your responsibilities. All of that, all of these masks and all these extra burdens that we bring on ourselves is what, you know, it's exhausts us. And that's what eats up our resilience. We're carrying all these packs and all this weight in our pack, and we're trying to do all these things to meet other people's needs and expectations. That's exhausting, man. That's what wears down our resilience.
I mean, I don't love it because but I love the way you expressed it, because it's a hard truth. And speaking of the word resilience, you know, it took me a long time to even learn what it meant. I think we all know what it means, but I think there's everyone has their own definition of it. So I always like to ask every guest, like, what is resilience to you?
Yeah, I think I probably I buy on the most common definition I've heard is just the ability to bounce back, like the resilience that we have, the ability to face hard, challenging times, to experience stress, and to bounce back. And when we have that resilience and we can come back to that place quickly and get back to, you know, center, then that's really what resilience means to me.
That's spot on, boss. How can we endure in these suffering, find some meaning, and then grow from it? PTSD, I asked for a room full of people to go, post-traumatic stress disorder. It's like woven into our culture. Everybody knows what that acronym means. But I say PTSD, what's that mean? And it gets real quiet. And maybe I'll have one expert in the room that'll be able to say it, but it's post-traumatic stress growth too. There is growth through these hard times as well to build our
absolutely.
resilience.
And that's something that's so important. We do need to talk about that. We need to make PTG, as I've heard it, PTG as part of our vernacular.
Yes.
Because if we don't even know that growth is possible after trauma, then what are we trying to do? Then we're just in a situation where we're trying to mitigate symptoms of this traumatic experience that we had. And I'm honest, I've been in a lot of rooms with mental health professionals over the last couple of years. That's one of the primary things I'm doing right now is working with mental health professionals so they can better understand the veteran population, the specific need of veterans. But one thing I usually bring up in my talks is post-traumatic growth. And before I tell everybody what it is, I say, let me see a show of hands. All of you trauma experts, all you clinicians, all you counselors, therapists, how many people here know what post-traumatic growth is?
Yes.
And it's like 50% or less. And
True.
I'm like, damn, so you're working with individuals that have experienced trauma. You're trying to help them mitigate the effects of their trauma. And you don't even know that there's a possibility for growth. And maybe they do. They just hadn't heard that term before. But it's like, how are we going to lead somebody to something if we don't even know it exists? Because the pathway beyond trauma should not just be like, all right, let's find all these aches and pains and wounds and all these symptoms, and let's try to mitigate that through, coping skills or new practices or pharmacological solutions. It's not about it's not like whack-a-mole with the symptoms. Like, let's get to a place where we can heal the wound and where somebody can actually grow from it. Let's turn something into a place where somebody can experience a better version of their life.
Yes.
Show up as a better version of themselves, not despite the traumas that they've experienced, but because of those traumas that they've experienced. And I think that's what, it certainly starts with a conversation so that people even know something like that is possible.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you hit on that. And to anybody out there listening, hey, it sucks when things suck, and embracing the suck is real, and life is hard. It's been hard since the beginning of time, but there are good things that come from it. And I think all of us I think anybody listening right now, the things that you're proud of, the things that bring you joy from your accomplishments or things you've been through are usually not easy things, right? Now, of course, we don't want to, glorify our tragedy or our trauma, but at the same time, it can make you grow. It can make you a stronger person. And last time I checked, humans don't get nothing done on their own. We never have since the beginning of time. We have to work together. So maybe it's the only way I can make sense of certain things. We go through things so that way we can help each other through it. That's the only thing I can think of.
And that's a beautiful way to take our past strains and traumas and make something meaningful from it. So I understand that one of the key elements, or one of the things that even creates the possibility to go down that pathway of post-traumatic growth, is associating some kind of meaning with the traumatic experience that you had. So I understand trauma, my very kind of layperson's definition. Let me add this to your warnings up front. So I'm not a licensed clinician. Anything I say is not meant to diagnose, treat, or cure any challenges that you have. So with that out there, I understand trauma as an event or an experience that somebody goes through, which creates a fundamental shift in their values, their beliefs, or their understanding of the world or their place in it. So, for example, somebody might, maybe somebody is growing up, and when they're young, they get assaulted by somebody that was close to them. Well, in their life, they were living in this world where you could generally trust and rely on those people that were around you, your caretakers, those people of your family. You could generally rely and trust on them. And then after this violation occurred, now they're living in this new reality where that belief doesn't always hold true.
Yes.
And one of the challenges, I think, or what creates a lot of that challenge that leads to the PTS or PTSD, is this inability to reconcile, okay, I was living in this one reality and now I'm living in a new reality. And I had this one belief that was proven to not be true, this one fundamental belief of how I see the world and how I see my place in it that was proven not to be true. What other beliefs do I have that might also not be true? And that creates a very disassociating and disorienting position, which I think leads to a lot of the challenges or symptoms. It's at least, kind of a philosophical way to think about what a traumatic experience is. However, the way that I defined it, talking about it creates a fundamental shift in your values, beliefs, or your understanding of the world or your place in it. Nowhere in there did I say that shift necessarily had to be a bad thing. And when we're talking about PTSD, we're always looking at the negative consequences of this traumatic experience. Whereas, some people, one example I often use, if somebody had a heart attack, that could be a traumatic experience, like life nearly over, everything you love is nearly gone. maybe that individual took that as a wake-up call, and they're saying, man, I really do have to clean up my diet. Maybe I really do need to start an exercise routine. And then from that experience alone, they create a much better life for themselves. They're much healthier. They're much more vibrant. They're much more engaged. That was after this traumatic experience that changed a fundamental belief they had. They used to believe, hey, I can eat, I can hit the drive-thru every night on my way home. I can lay up on the couch all week. I don't have to, do any exercise. That was a belief or a value that they had. That created a fundamental shift, which has them on a better path now.
Yes.
And what they find the difference is between whether somebody goes down that PTSD or like the negative route of the post-trauma or the positive route is being able to tie or associate some meaning to that event. So this gentleman that had a heart attack, if he says, man, what that means in my life, where humans are meaning-seeking creatures, what that experience meant in my life was it was a wake-up call to help me get to a better place. If he has that meaning, then that opens the door or at least allows that path to post-traumatic growth to occur. And what I believe is happening, if somebody has a traumatic experience and they don't have a meaning or they can't come up with a meaning for why that was valuable in their life, a lot of times we'll come back to a default meaning of the reason that happened to me is because bad things happen or some reason I deserved it. And if that's the meaning that you come away with, of course, that's very demoralizing. Of course, that begins to erode your sense of self-worth and your confidence, because if you think that bad things are just going to happen to you for no reason at all, other than the fact that you're a bad person, somehow you deserved it, then that can be very, jarring and lead somebody more to the challenges that they'll experience. So finding that sense of meaning is a very important thing in this conversation around post-traumatic growth or post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah, no. And that was one thing. If y'all haven't heard it yet, I'll make sure I put it in the show notes. Please check it out. But this man delivered a TED Talk, and that was one of the biggest things that I took away from it was the fact of the meaning. And there's two other prongs to that, so I don't want to steal them all away. But to find the meaning, not the maybe joy in the suffering, but the meaning in it, and then to take that mess, make it a message, or do something productive with it, can be liberating and medicating at the same time.
Absolutely. And meaning is also extremely important. So for anybody that's curious and you want to go see this TED Talk, you can just search for it on YouTube, or you can go to unspokentrauma.vet. And the name of the TEDx talk is The Unspoken Trauma That All Veterans Face.
All veterans.
Yeah, all veterans. And, and I could talk around that, and the importance of that. But really, it was my mission with this. I want veterans to understand. We look at the veteran population as a whole. There's 19 million veterans in America right now. Veterans as a population are 200% more likely to deal with mental health challenges or struggle with addiction. 1 in 5 post 9/11 veterans is going to experience PTSD at some point in their life. And veterans are at least 57%, but unfortunately that number keeps rising, at least 57% more likely to end their life by suicide. What I understand is that there's a lot of things that create trauma, or a lot of experiences of trauma in the military service, whether it's battlefield trauma, whether it's a mishap that happens in training, whether it's military sexual trauma. There's a lot of events, of experiences that can affect somebody's life. That doesn't account for the number of veterans that are really struggling with some of these challenges after they transition. So what I understand is that regardless of what a veteran experienced while they were in the service, that transition from military service itself can be traumatic. It can create a fundamental shift in your values, your beliefs, or your understanding about the world or your place in it. And the reason that's so important, because I was one of them. There's a lot of veterans out there that didn't experience some explosion or something that they can say that was traumatic. That's the reason that I'm having all these experiences. I mean, I was forward deployed. I was in combat. I was usually flying C-130s over the combat zone, but I was out there and landing in in Leatherneck or Bastion. So I was forward deployed, but I was experiencing symptoms after I transitioned out. I was experiencing the PTSD. I was having some of the negative consequences of that. I was trying to self-medicate to deal with it, but I couldn't tie it back to one experience that I had that could have been a catalyst for those challenges that I faced. So that's why it's so important for me to share this message, because I understand regardless of what somebody experiences in the service, that transition itself can be traumatic. The truth is, when we're in the service, we have fundamental human needs. Some of those needs are for connection, a sense of belonging, a positive identity. We have the need for authenticity or permission to be authentic to that group or that tribe that we're a part of. And we have a need for meaning. The way that we met these when we're in the service is ripped away from us and stripped away as we transition out. I wasn't prepared for that. And I know a lot of veterans aren't prepared for that. And that's why I really want to drive home that message, so that if you are one of those veterans that is struggling, maybe you did have some, combat related experience, and it's exacerbated by the trauma that you experienced when you transitioned out of military service. I at least want to help provide a context or a framework for people to better understand that, so that when they're in that dark place, they know how they got there. Because if you know how you got there, you can at least understand that there could be a possibility that you can get out of it.
I appreciate you saying that so much, because I think, and I'm so glad you hit on the combat part of it. And, we always, we hear comparisons of thief of joy, but, comparison also the thief of healing. And I see now with this younger generation, we've been out of Afghanistan for a little while now. We've been out of Iraq for a little while now. The war on terror is, in a sense, faded, etc. Right? So not everybody's got a sea service deployment ribbon right now and has a campaign medal or has a combat action ribbon. And a lot of people will either minimize someone else's experience or their trauma or their issues or the things that they're dealing with, or they will minimize their own, because it's like, yeah, well, I didn't go to combat like Mass Sergeant, or I didn't do XYZ like Lieutenant Colonel, so I don't really have trauma. No, man, trauma can be a car accident. Trauma can be anything. You had the perfect definition for it, that distorts or changes you said your beliefs and your values about things, right? That comes in all shapes and forms. So I say that because I want to let everybody out there know, whether you're a veteran or not, man, and this isn't to play a victim card or to now have a new claim on something in life, but stuff is hard. And if you don't deal with your stuff, it will deal with you. Don't compare, try to find that meaning. And as what you're describing right now, when you're in that dark place, like, how would you suggest, and I know you get into this in a TED Talk, but for the layman to get out of that dark place?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different things that we can do, and it all depends on the individual situation. But I really love the point that you made about how, this comparison of our traumas or comparisons of our experiences. So one thing to know and understand about trauma is that it's individually defined. So two people can go through the exact same thing. It's traumatic for one and it's not traumatic for another. It all depends on it. I think this ties back to, I don't know exactly what the relationship is, but it ties some way back to our resilience. At some point, somebody can be pushed beyond their capacity to endure stress or their capacity to endure a time. And that pushing beyond it creates a disassociation, which I believe is what defines the traumatic experience, or whether or not it's traumatic for an individual. But everybody's got different levels of resilience. Hell, we have different levels of our resilience throughout the day. There might be, or throughout the month, throughout the year, throughout their lifetime. There can be times where we got a lot of things in our pack, and maybe now we don't have the resilience to deal with that car accident like we could have if we had, a free load and we weren't already consumed by so many other responsibilities or burdens. So there's a lot of different things that make it individually defined. Two Lance Corporals can deploy together. One's, living in the barracks, living a good life, and has no worries and on his mind. The other one's leaving a wife and a newborn, and maybe on the road to divorce. Like, his pack is already pretty damn full when they step off on that deployment. So now they go through a similar thing or have a similar experience. For one person, it's very traumatic and it really upsets his life and his mental health state. For the other individual, not so much. But when we start comparing our outcomes or our to somebody else's, I love that point. Like, minimizing somebody else, like, oh, you think that was bad, man, you should have seen what I went through. And that's part of the bravado of the Marine Corps and the services. So I get that. And if you're struggling with something, comparing your situation, like, oh yeah, but he had it a lot worse and he seems to be doing okay. No, don't rob yourself that opportunity to really understand and grasp your situation and get the help and support you need to heal and to get to a better place. So understand it's individually defined. It's not, anything that you experience or any of the symptoms that you're having, that's not taken away from anybody else. That's not changing their experience. But man, have the self-awareness and the self-compassion to really understand and recognize and not live in denial about the situation that you're facing, so that you can move beyond it. At the end of the day, if there's anything in your life that you don't love the way that it's manifesting or turning out, then do recognize that. Now let's go find some tools and resources to help you get to a better place.
Yes. That's the whole reason. That's the whole premise we were talking before the show. That's the whole premise for the show, is the words of Dr. Maya Angelou. If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. Like, try, right? But Another great veteran, Marine too, as well. He was on here a few episodes back, but Andrew Colville, he is a police officer up in Mass, and he's also author of a book called Summer 2009. And in that book, he says, if it's a big deal to you, then it's a big deal, and that's all that matters, right?
Oh, wow,
and that's a decorated combat veteran, lost his best friend in combat, and he's saying that to anybody. So I just want to emphasize to everyone listening, like, don't just put this as a niche. Oh, this is just a veteran thing, trauma, or only Marines go through this, or only sailors go through. No, that's not true. That's not true. Nor is it that because you went to OIF or OEF and I didn't, or vice versa, that you're a better or more inclined to be able to not have trauma or whatever. It's like you said, it's all based on the individual. We're as unique as our fingerprint. So please, listeners out there, I'm not telling you to go cry for help if you have no problems and make up a problem, but I am saying if you're dealing with something, deal with it before it deals with you.
Absolutely. I love that. So you asked, what can somebody do when they're in that dark place? Well, first and foremost, I think is just getting a clearer understanding of why you're in that dark place. That was my mission behind the TEDx talk. I wish every transitioning veteran would at least hear it so that they can better understand it when they get into that place. I already alluded to this, but if you find yourself in a dark place, if you find yourself suffering and you don't know how you got there, it can be really, it can steal your hope that things can get better. And the analogy I often use is that, say, you and I, we went out, we hit the gym real hard. We're hitting PRs. We're really putting everything we got into it. We go on a long run. If we come back from that and we're sore for the next couple of days, it's going to make perfect sense to us while we're sore. Mm-hmm. We're going to understand it. We're going to understand the discomfort, the pain. We're going to know why it happened. We're also going to know that things are going to get better. So it's easier to find our way out of it. If you woke up one morning and you were experiencing that same pain, that same suffering, and you couldn't associate it, you had no idea why or where it came from, it's easy to come to the conclusion that, man, shit, this is as good as it gets, or somehow I'm so defective that there's not going to be a path out of it. And, I want to at least prevent veterans from experiencing that hopelessness or that misunderstanding or lack of understanding about the pain that they're experiencing by having a clear, vision going into it. Now, not every veteran's going to get to a bad or a dark place, and every veteran's going to, vary on how severe that is. But for anybody that experiences some of that challenge, or as I call it, that trauma of military transition, for anybody that experiences that, I want them to be able to have something to think back to, like, oh yeah, I remember that one message. Maybe there's some of these things that are not in alignment now. Now it makes sense to me why I'm experiencing this. Oh yeah, but there was also a pathway to move beyond it. So for anybody that hasn't seen that TEDx talk, the three core fundamental needs that I talk about is our need for connection. Humans were hardwired for connection. It's in our body. It's in our DNA. There's things that are hardwired into us that help us with emotional resilience, with emotional regulation or emotional processing that we get from other humans, whether it's simple things like, the sharing of emotions and the sharing of expressions. Like there's actually a function in our brain that's called mirror neurons. And the whole purpose of these mirror neurons in our brain is to help us see, understand, and empathize with the experiences that other humans are going through. So if you see somebody get hit or knocked off a bike and you cringe, that's an effect of your mirror neurons. Or you're watching the Eagles game this weekend and you're seeing somebody take a big hit and you could jump in your seat. It's because, there's a part of us that facilitates connection with others that is helping us understand a little bit about the pain that somebody else is going through. Same thing when somebody comes to you and they have a real sad face, or they're really, they look like they're really weighed down by the world. If you sit in that place, it will affect your emotional setting or how you're feeling, inside of you. If somebody laughs around you and you start laughing, you don't even know what the heck they're laughing about, but you just kind of feel this need to laugh. These are all things that help facilitate connection, because connection, for humans, we're tribal creatures. We need to be a part of our tribe in order to survive. Our most basic human needs for safety, shelter, everything that we need for survival, we rely on other people to do it. It's not to say that you can't go off and survive on your own in nature for a while. I got a buddy of mine who was on Naked and Afraid a couple of years ago, and he spent a long time out in the wilderness all by himself. So it's not to say you can't do it, but the way that we thrive, the way that we really do our best, we need to be part of a tribe, a part of a community. I mean, heck, just on my way here to my office this morning, like, I had to drive on a road that somebody else made. I had to stop at a gas station and fill up my car with gas that somebody else provided. I come into my office, I turn on the heat from a HVAC system that was installed by somebody. Like, there's all these ways that we need to be part of a community, and we need to be accepted into that. So that was a long rant on the need for connection, but it's extremely important. Actually, the one last thing I will share on connection is there's a recent Surgeon General report that came out that found that loneliness is the new epidemic, or the new pandemic. And what they found was that loneliness, or lack of proper social connection, has the same adverse effects on our health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day or drinking more than 6 alcoholic beverages every day. The effects of loneliness or lack of connection on our longevity, on our vibrancy, on our well-being is the same as indulging in these things, over the long term. So that's how important it is. It comes back to our ability to emotionally regulate. So as we pick up stress, as we pick up worries, as we pick up concerns, it's the connections that we have to other individuals that help us process that and help us move through those times. So connection, vitally important. Look at the connection that we have in the military service. I mean, anybody that's either stepped on those yellow footprints or raised their hand or stepped forward to serve their country, very quickly you realize those bonds that you're creating with your brothers and sisters in arms is unlike the bonds that other people ever get to experience.
Ever.
And these bonds that we forge through these hard times, through these training evolutions, through this, through going into harm's way together and doing it and having each other's back while you're there, this creates a bond and a connection that is unlike what most other people will ever experience. And maybe we don't even realize that fully until we lose it.
That's
there's
right.
a lot of things in our life that we don't fully appreciate until we lose it. So losing that form of connection or that level of connection and then floundering and feeling isolated, feeling alone, this is one of those things. This is one of those fundamental values or the beliefs or this core needs that we have that gets altered or shifted when we move out of the service. Did you have anything you want to ask about that before I jump into authenticity?
No, I thank you for touching on that so much, because people need people, and a hard thing is that you don't know it's coming when that time of transition comes, and like you said, we take it for granted. It's like, I can't wait to just be out of the barracks. I can't wait to be away from all these people, everybody up in my business, everything like that. But you don't realize how much that is fulfilling you. So when you say, I'm just going to get out, because only us, zoo animals and inmates get out anyway. But like when we get out and just go fishing, it's like, hello, sadness, my old friend. And I've seen it time and time again with fellow veterans. When we get out and that connection, whether you wanted it or not, it was there. You were a part of something. And you even talk about on the TEDx talk that, if you're caring for someone that you love that is ill or something of that nature, and you don't get good sleep, well, that's okay, because there was meaning in the suffering, and it was connected to another person. When we don't have that and we're just suffering, meaningless suffering, it goes bad.
Yeah. And I think this all ties back to resilience. So the other basic needs that I discuss are the connection, the authenticity, and meaning. And when you have these and you can't fully appreciate it, and why might we not fully be able to appreciate it? Well, let's look at the time of somebody's life when they typically enter the service. They're usually between 18 and 22 years old. Well, in reality, our brains aren't even fully developed. Our full comprehension and understanding of the world and of our place in it isn't even fully developed until that time when we're in the service. So, of course, the lenses through which we see and experience the human experience is through the lenses of military service. So we're already experiencing the benefits of these things, this connection, this ability to be authentic, this ability to have this strong sense of meaning. We have these, and that a lot of that provides that foundation for that resilience. So we can go through hard times. We can struggle against things. We can suffer against things. We can suffer together through things, but we have that strong foundation for the resilience. Yes. And one of the saddest things I see is that veterans, of course, life might be a lot simpler when you get out of the military. You don't have deployments. You're not PCSing. You don't have the workups. You don't have the exercises. There's a lot of things that you're like, in your mind, it's like, yeah,
at the barracks.
That's right. Man, I'm fucking buffing that floor one more time. No way.
One more time.
It's like,
finally, baby, it's a party.
Yeah, we finally got it done. Yeah, not once since I got out have I moved all the furniture from my house from one side to the other and cleaned up everything behind it. But in our mind, it's like, I'm going to lose all of these things that are frustration. So the math should work out that if I remove a lot of frustrations, I'm going to feel better. I understand where somebody could come to that conclusion. But the reality is we're removing a lot of frustrations, but we're also taking away our entire capacity for resilience and our ability to deal with the hard things. So now maybe our life's more simple, but man, some of those simple things now can be mountains that we can't overcome, emotionally and spiritually, physically, because we don't have that foundation for the resilience and the well-being that we once had.
And it's a blind side. So when you talked about the definition of trauma, that definitely is going to be a traumatic experience. That's why I love the title of the talk you give, is that all veterans face this. That doesn't mean we're all broken and we're not all fixable and we're the island of broken toys and I'm the water gun that shoots jelly or something. So nobody's claiming that, but we are all experiencing the same hardship together. And some of us don't even know it's coming because, as you said, some of those frustrations are going away. And it's like, oh, but I didn't picture this was going to be a problem. I just wanted to get away from them fools. So that's a solid point, and thank you for saying it. As a reminder to all of us, I'm not trying to get you to stay in. We're not career planners. I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? You got to have you got to still have those connections. So it's just very important that we tap into something. But you could serve. And I was talking to a Marine yesterday that is being separated medically and did not want to be earlier than the time they wanted to. And I told him, I said, dog, man, you ain't got to wear camis to be able to lead and make a difference in America. I mean, yes, that's one way to wear camis and to serve in your, boots and utes or whatever you want to say, combat fatigue, whatever. But it doesn't just end there. You can go and be a local coach in your community. You can go and work at the SPCA. You can go help elderly people. I saw a video last night of a guy mowing this old lady's lawn, and the city was about to come out and find her a whole bunch of money, and he just went ahead over there and did it for free. You could do things of those nature of serving and being connected to your community. You don't have to just be having name tapes and rank insignia to be able to do that.
Yeah, I love that, because so much of our identity and so much of our self-confidence and our self-worth can come from that uniform. And this is something that I encourage veterans to realize is there's things that are about you that are worthwhile. Of course, like the discipline, the attention to detail, the character strengths that you develop, like those things are wrapped up in the uniform while you're in service, but it doesn't mean you don't carry those things beyond the service. That's right. Those things that were, it's almost like we take all the value that we have and we're like, okay, it's because of this uniform that I wear. The challenge with that is when we remove that uniform for the last time, if we don't realize that those things are a part of us, not a part of the uniform, then it can be, tempting to lose that or let go of that. So I love that message that you shared with this Marine is, there's the things about you that make you valuable and that provide meaning in your life. Like you can still find those outside of this. Yes. As long as you don't throw everything about you away with that uniform and think that, that you don't still have those traits and that value.
Another point that I thought was so just brilliant that you said was the emotional regulation and the coping, and the ages of which we join. Look, I come from a culture where it's like, hey, walk that shit off. Hey, you feeling have a bad day? You better go take a shot or just carry on, suck it up. Right. So my coping is just like, for a long time, I abused alcohol. I had suicidal ideation. I had suicidal attempts because I would drink to a certain state. Like I knew how to stand a rifle inspection. I knew how to deploy. I knew how to be a drill instructor and make Marines. I know how to do all that kind of stuff. Right. But I didn't know how to handle some of the other stresses of life, and then losing, my community and all these other things. And you don't have the experience in those realms. So like they say, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. If you don't have certain coping skills, if you don't have certain emotional regulation in your life, or to be open-minded to learn new ways, man, you are going to end up being, unfortunately, like I was, and so many others are, where I'm just going to drink my pain away. I'm just going to suffer in this way. And then usually when you're in that already under so much duress, bad decisions start feeling like good decisions, and you pour substances on top of that will make you more impulsive. Well, look at our death by suicide rates. You know what I'm saying? And over 50% of them could be prevented because, and this is the main reason, this is the tragic trifecta. They got dumped, they got drunk, and they had access. They got dumped, they got drunk, they had access. And I don't want to steal your thunder on the access point, but when you shared that in the TEDx talk about that subject of having access and then having that friend to step in with you, I don't want to steal the thunder. I know I'm like word vomiting right now, but we just don't know what we don't know, man. We don't know.
That's right. Yeah. And that's what, I love any conversation about this to just kind of bring some real talk to people, because there's a lot of people out there like, man, I've been thinking some of these things, or I've been struggling with some of these things, but it's not broadcast enough. There's not enough conversations around it. And I think just with the work that you do and putting some voice to these things that are going on inside of veterans' minds and showing up in their lives is extremely important, because we need to understand that we're not just so broken, that we're different than everybody else, that it's okay to struggle. It's okay to suffer these and have some clarity about what's going on that's leading to some of that. Because the more that we can normalize that conversation around some of these topics and some of these real things that are showing up, then it's going to make people feel safer to go get that help and have access to the help, not to the potential means to deal with the challenges that they're facing.
Yes. And I know you want to get to authenticity. I keep stopping you, but you shared on there, talk about being authentic and talking about being a real brother, right? And we talked about things we need to normalize. And a great mentor of mine, she always says, hey, we normalize. If you know me, I'm dry for 5 years. I don't drink anymore because it usually leads to me having to apologize for something or me thinking about bad things. So long story short, if I'm out and anybody sees me drinking, they would say, oh, Cam's relapsing. I know he ain't supposed to drink. Somebody's going to come up to me and ask me to take my keys. The metaphor there and the analogy is we need to normalize also saying, I know Garrett's going through something, man. Hey, while you're going through this shit, you want to come stay with me? Or do you at least want to give me your weapon while you're going through that so you don't make a permanent choice over the temporary circumstances that you're going through? We need to normalize asking our friend or our brother or our sister for their keys the same way we should be able to say, and what happened in your situation where you told a friend, hey, man, I'm going to need you to take this away from me because I don't trust myself with this.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Because, everybody's going to go through hard and challenging times. And we shouldn't have to muscle through it to try to get to a better place. And this is one thing I think that we bring, an unfortunate character trait that we bring out of the military. And let me share this with you, and you tell me if this resonates. But I feel like in the service, we got a lot of our value because of our willingness to sacrifice. We were the ones that stepped forward. We're the ones that raised our hand and say, somebody's got to go into harm's way, send me. I'm going to go do tough things. I'm going to go do difficult things. And in some way, I feel like we, though maybe it wasn't overtly expressed this way, but in some way we correlate our sacrifice and our willingness to suffer as relevant to or equivalent to the value that we're providing. So the more that I'm willing to suffer, the more that I'm willing to do hard things, that means I'm providing more value to my unit, to my country, to my loved ones back home. And the unfortunate thing about this is, just look at the service members that we think are most valuable. What is it that we know about the SEALs or about the Rangers? Like, oh, we know that they have to suffer through so much in order to get that title. So there's like this correlation, like, oh, the greater you suffer, the greater the value that you have, the more valuable you are. Well, the challenge is, I think, if we have this bastardized connection between a value of suffering and a value and the value that we have, if we carry that out with us and it follows us in our life, then it's almost like we want suffering, or we almost feel like there's an expectation to suffer. And if we're not suffering, then therefore we don't have the value, whether that's value to our family, value to our community. So it's almost like, we will suck it up. We will take out the straw and we'll suck things up that we don't need to, beyond the point that we don't need to, because it's almost like if I'm not suffering, then where's the value that I have?
Man, that's deep. That's deep. And I'm so guilty. I'm one of those Goggins type mentalities where I'm like, to grow, you must suffer. And it's like, suffer, but you could take that shit too far, and you can unintentionally hurt yourself or hurt others because you're chasing that wind, or chasing like a puppy on the floor, chasing your tail, trying to chase that suffering. Look, y'all, stress is not bad by itself. Stress plus recovery equals growth. Okay. But if you just go stress, suffer, no recovery, no meaning, no authenticity into it, no connection, well, it's probably not going to work out so good. It's bad math.
That's right. Absolutely. And just kind of knowing yourself. And here's the message that, to come back to is that, yes, suffering, growth, stress, all great things. And you as an individual, you're still lovable. You still have value regardless of whether you're stressing yourself or suffering. So it's not that something external or some activity that we need to do in order to maintain or retain value. You as an individual, you're a lovable human being. You're going through a human experience. You're going to have ups and downs. You're going to have wins. You're going to have losses. But at the end of the day, you're still a lovable human being as you are. You don't have to suffer in order to prove that worth.
Yeah. And just know that, please, listeners out there, anybody, like, you matter. And sometimes we feel when we lose our titles or we lose our, like you said, like that purposeful suffering, that somehow we don't matter anymore, or everything's meaningless because we found so much meaning in it while we were serving. But you could still find it in other ways post service, or even while you're in the service. Sometimes you go to like a duty station, you're like, I didn't join for this, or you get slated with an MOS or a billet that you're like, I didn't do this, and it's not as fulfilling. Well, you still have to find fulfillment in something, and it doesn't have to just be in uniform or in whatever is in your occupation title or billet.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Because one scenario, a really nice scenario, is when your occupation can also be your greatest source of meaning and joy in your life. However, if your occupation is, maybe your occupation is just to pay the bills so that you can support a family, it doesn't mean that you don't deserve to have that joy and that sense of meaning in your life. So maybe it's through a recreational activity or a hobby that you have, or maybe you're a coach of a basketball team, or maybe you find some other way to serve, or maybe you just give yourself time and space to go do things that you love. Like let's go camping. Let's go for a walk in the woods. Let's go hang in my hammock and read a book. We need to invite those things of joy into our life.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And just to plug a few organizations that I've seen that have helped a lot of people. It's helped me too. I used to work with Sea Cadets when I was out in California, with the Young Marines, with the Devil Pups. These are organizations that a lot of times when people get out, they're so anti-military. They're like, I don't want anything to do with it or whatever like that. But you can find some meaning in mentoring these young ones. Man, I know a corporal at the local installation, like she'll go meet police, not on like any ego trip or power trip, and just mentor them while they're in the DEP program. Like you have an experience, you have a skill set, you have a knowledge that can sharpen someone else. So we say steel sharpens steel, but do we live it? So don't just sit there all to your lonesome and suffer in silence.
No, I love that, especially if you're in a place where you feel like you don't have that value, anymore. If you're a poolee, you're going to eat up every second that you can have the ear of somebody who's been there and served and has some insight or some wisdom to share. Like you're gonna eat that up. So when you can go out there and realize that you are valuable, to somebody else, or there is something that you have that is of value, it's a very important thing to remind ourselves of.
Yes, and I love it, man. The connection again, humans. Sebastian Younger's book, or just listen to Mr. Garret right here, right now. Like. Connection. Humans need humans. But when we get into the authenticity and the meaning part, boss, do you want to break that down to our listeners out there?
Absolutely, because here's the big warning: connection without authenticity is not connection. And this is why I said, this overarching theory, this unifying theory that I have around our suffering and around our inner peace being that divergence from our authentic self. What I've also realized is that, let's look at a veteran who's transitioning out. Maybe he quickly realizes, man, I lost that sense of belonging that I once had. I lost those tight friendships and that sense of camaraderie that I once had. Let me jump out there and let me try to find that with my new civilian tribe. Well, my experience was very quickly, I realized there's some things about me, about this old Marine that doesn't really jive with this new community that I'm trying to be a part of. Maybe it was my hypervigilance. Maybe it was like looking at everything. I was selling real estate for a period of time, but I had this level of intensity. Like, man, if I don't return this phone call, somebody's going to die. If I don't go show that house on Saturday, somebody's going to die.
No, we call that enthusiasm, Garret. What you talking about?
That's right. Yeah, no kidding, right? But that level of intensity might be a little off-putting, or at least make some people uncomfortable. Or maybe it's that sense of humor I had, maybe jokes that I told, and now all of a sudden I'm like ostracized.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nobody wants to talk to me. So what I found is I started covering parts of myself up. Like, okay, this isn't working out. What do I need to do? How do I need to present so that I can be acceptable and be part of this tribe?
But you're not being yourself.
That's right. Yeah. So every time you put on that mask, you're starting to cover your authenticity, which I understand. Like connection, this is why we do it, because connection is so real. It's such a fundamental need that if we don't have connection, we freak out a bit, and we're like, how do I get that connection? And one of the unfortunate consequences, a lot of times we'll start to cover up our authenticity. We'll hide parts of ourselves. We'll hide parts of our history. We won't share things because we want to be enough. We want to be acceptable. So maybe we get that connection, but here's the thing is that if somebody's connecting with a mask that you're wearing, they're not connecting with you. So that emotional, the emotional benefit that we get from it, the ability to to feel like we are enough, or to know that we're enough, the ability to regulate some of our emotions and deal with some of our stress, we're not getting that because somebody's not connected with us or connected with a version of us or this projection of us. And really what it does is it creates more stress in our life, because if I'm hiding things about who I am, or I'm not sharing things about my past, with this person I'm connected to, then we also have this fear, like, man, what if they find out?
Yes.
What if they know that I used to be addicted? What if they know that I, experienced these things in my past? What if they know about some of my past behavior? Are they still going to accept me? So it starts to create this fear. And along with that fear also is this message that we're sending to ourselves. If I'm hiding behind a mask, that means that somehow I'm not good enough just as I am. And that starts to erode our sense of self-worth and our sense of value and our sense of confidence. So this is, so it's a fight to try to regain that connection. But if we do it without authenticity, like I said, we're not satiating that need for connection.
We all need to hear that, because wow, like that just makes sense. So much sense. The connection without authenticity, man. That's how. If you are like, because I know it's not like, here's your 3-step program to be able to be a better you, but what are some tangible ways for you that you found your way out that could help somebody out there that's, veteran or non or whatever, that's out there trying to find and put these things that you're talking about that make so much sense, but apply them into action?
Yeah, great question. So for me, I had some great coaching and mentorship, and through that process, the first thing that it helped me do was reconnect with myself, reconnect with the good parts of me, reconnect with the things that help me understand my value. So there's a part of our human nature that we tend to hold on to and remember mistakes and defects and things that we messed up in the past. If I said something yesterday I shouldn't have said, or if I forgot to do that thing, or if I failed that inspection, we'll remember those things almost like we're opening tabs on our browser. And we're going to remember that thing because the reason we do it is because if I repeat that could be a threat to me. That could be a threat to my connection, could be a threat to my safety, my ability to provide for myself or my family. And I don't want to repeat that. So let me remember it. Well, the challenge is as we live through our life and we have all these mistakes or all these setbacks or all these defects that are apparent to us, if that's all that we're carrying through us, if that's the lens through with which we're looking at our life, of course, that's not a picture that makes us feel much better about ourselves. On the other side, every time we have a win or a success, or we follow through with something, or we do really well on an inspection, or we do give a really good performance, that's not going to be a future threat. So unfortunately, we really quickly minimize that or move past it. Like, let me close out that tab because that's not going to come back to haunt me. Well, the challenge is this creates a mindset where all we remember or the luggage that we're carrying with us is the mistakes and the defects and the bad things about us that we wish we could change. That's not making us feel great about ourselves. So the first process is, or the first step, it really is reconnecting with the good things about us. And you can do this in different ways. What I often do with a lot of clients I work with is the first thing I'll have them do is make a list of 100 wins and successes that they've had in their life. And if somebody's in a really bad spot, the typical response is, Garret, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like 40 years old. I haven't had 100 wins. Well, for one, that's indicative to me of like, that's a litmus test for how bad they are in their mindset or in their mind space at that time. Because the truth is, I don't care how many things you messed up in your life. If you're 10 years old, you've had more than 100 wins or successes. It's what do we classify or what do we identify as a win or success that's worth valuing? Well, my question to that is, how small of a mistake would you have made yesterday that you're going to remember it and ruminate on it today and tomorrow? Because if it was like that extra, that scoop of ice cream that I got after dinner that I shouldn't have had, and that's a mistake that you're going to carry with you, and you're going to carry the burden of that memory with you, well, then why don't we give ourselves credit for that glass of water that you drank in the morning or any other small little win or success that you've had along the way? If you're 30 years old, if you're 40 years old, you should be able to come up with tens of thousands of wins and successes. Let's just start with 100 and start to recognize this, because that's a great way to start to shift the framework or shift that lens, shift the mindset to where we start to regain our sense of self-worth and our sense of self-value. If we can do this before we try to foster those connections, and we're bringing a better version of ourselves forward to make and foster those new connections.
It makes a lot of sense because what I thought of when you were saying that was Marcus Aurelius. He says, be tolerant of others and strict with yourself. And that has its place, right? But we're such perfectionists. But I never thought about in the realm that I know that everybody's like evolution and the saber-tooth tigers and all that. But like you said, it's a threat if it's a negative. But if it's a win, it's not a threat. So it doesn't register on my sphere. But when we're getting rational with these things, you got to be able to register your wins as well. And if that's the standard to where you hate yourself or you're dogging yourself out for having that scoop of ice cream, yeah, then you're right. It just makes sense to counter that with one of the positive things you did. Like, I woke up on time for work today. But you'll definitely remember that one time you overslept, and that's the truth. And we should to a certain extent, right? Because that's how we don't do it again. Certainly, yeah. You want to correct actions and you want to move forward, but you can't do that if everything that you got in your rucksack is just negative things about you, because then you don't feel like you're worth getting any better. And I work with a lot of people in addiction recovery, and some people that are in a really bad place, and all they can remember is all those mistakes that they made. They don't even think that they deserve happiness. They don't even think they deserve to be healthy or to have a better life. So they're not even going to take those steps necessary to move in that direction. And that's a big part of it. Like, we got to regain our sense of self-worth and our confidence and remember the strengths that we have. And that's another thing you can do, is do an inventory of your strengths. If I ask, anybody, what are a couple things that you're not good at, they probably rattle off a list. And if I say, hey, what are your strengths? Sometimes if they can share them at all, it's going to take them a little while to think about it. So why not bring the strengths that we have, but our creativity, our leadership abilities, our love of learning, our curiosity. These are strengths that can serve us. And if they're not readily accessible to us, then the next time we face an obstacle or a challenge, they're not going to be there to help us through it. That's solid. And one thing that's helped me in my recovery, or and not hating myself, because I do for a long time for a lot of things, and I've seen this be true with other people. And I found it like from Susie Orman, the financial lady. She in one of her books, she said, "You are what you do today." And in two ways, that's really helped me a lot, because it's kept me humble to where, I don't rest on my accolades and say, oh, I'm the man because of this accomplishment or that thing, right? But at the same time, it also keeps me not hating myself because I didn't do those same things today. Like, you try to move forward, you try to learn from them. But that's a very solid point. And when you say, addicts or how we're wired differently, like, don't call an addict lazy. They'll find a way to get anything done. Like, don't say that they're not tough, because they'll weather some storms to be able to get where they're going. So it's not that these positive things aren't a part of you. It's just the way they came out and what you used them for wasn't good. But that was yesterday. What are we going to do now?
Yeah, it's the same tools in the toolbox. It's just, are you going to use it to get high and escape the pain that you're feeling right now? Or are you going to use it to, invest in your future and take something? And that's something, a lot of people used to ask me, like, Garret, why do you do coaching with people in recovery? Like, is that who you really want to work with? Like those people? And it's like, hey man, I think life is like a pendulum, and the further it's swung in one direction of pain and discomfort and despair and challenges, the more potential it has to swing in the other direction. And if somebody can just be shown how to use their creativity and their, that fight that they got to get away with whatever it is that they're doing, or find that thing that they're chasing, if you can leverage that to something else,
yes.
I mean, man, that creativity, that resolve, that determination, that drive, that compassion also from somebody that's lived through some of those darkest times, man, if you can get those things aligned and firing in the right order, there's no stopping how far somebody can go.
That's so true, especially with veterans, because there's something different that spun in all of our heads when, all of America saw those towers fall, and anybody post GWAT or before, it doesn't matter. You chose to serve. But then specifically for like those in combat arms and those in like the Marine Corps, like something really was different. And the joke I always tell people is like, you remember when you was at your MEPS, and like everybody had a sticker on their chest, and you were like the only dummy that had like USMC, and everybody had something else, and everybody's like, why you have that? And you're like, because I'm going to be the best. So already something turns different in your head already to say, like, and I think Sergeant Major Marine Corps even said it when he was on the Travis Manning Foundation podcast. He said it's irrational to want to join the Marine Corps. Like, it's irrational, right? Like
yeah.
But we do it. And I think if we can tie a meaning to it and a purpose behind it, we'll go to, every climb and place, we'll go to the depths of hell to be able to get some stuff done. But life doesn't always carry that same meaning. And maybe like I've said it before, and I saw a veteran express it recently. I do stand up on the side, and one of my stand up bits is like, I'm addicted to stress and chaos. Like, I'm addicted to it. Like, so everything's like normal, and like what everybody would say is normal. It bugs the shit out of me, man. It's like, I got to go create an unnecessary court date or something. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's a big challenge for veterans when they transition. If you're used to that high up tempo and now all of a sudden nothing's going on, that creates a void. And there's ways that you can fill that void. You can do it by bringing good activities and new behaviors into your life, or you can do it just by creating chaos for the sake of it. That's a big thing that trips people up in addiction recovery too, is that you're used to functioning. You feel at home when everything's falling apart around you. And then a lot of the guys, coming through my recovery residence, my recovery program, you got to let them know that, because like, look, things are going to start to feel, everything's settling down now. Your life is not as crazy and chaotic as before. And that's going to be uncomfortable. You wouldn't think that that's going to be uncomfortable, but that's going to be very uncomfortable. So you got to get used to that being a new normal, and recognize it, realize it, and have the support to help you through it, so you don't just go mess it all up. It's like, man, it's been, 60 days. I don't know what the heck's going on. I know how to mess all this up and get back to that place where I feel at home.
Yeah, no. And the big thing you said a second ago was the ruminating on the negatives. We do that so often. We ruminate, we dwell. It's one thing to acknowledge it, to take self-inventory, to have accountability, but to sit there and dwell and to ruminate, y'all, we're not doing ourselves any favors. Like my pop used to say when I was growing up, when people would do gossip, he's like, it's like stirring a pot of shit. The more you stir it, the more it stinks. It's the same thing when we kind of gossip within ourselves, on ourselves. So keep that in mind. But the other thing that I thought was so profound that you said was how to channel it, how to channel that energy, how to channel those abilities that you've obviously proven to have, whether you're an addict, you're a veteran, or both, because a lot of us are both by default in a lot of cases, how to channel that. And one thing I always try to tell and share with people on the show, or just the people I'm in my life, is like, and I found it through comedy, I found it through doing this show, I found it through some other things. is having healthy outlets, because the energy has to go somewhere. So what are you putting it into? And too often we put it into a bottle, or into going full throttle in a car, or, if you're a male, womanizing, or being just crazy extreme behaviors, because it brings that stress and chaos. But you can find that in healthy ways too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And think of all the amazing things that you can do if you channel it into something healthy. That's another thing. So I've worked a lot in the addiction recovery world the last couple of years, but I also have in mind, of the 19 million veterans in this country, there's some that aren't at the spectrum where they're, dealing with clinically diagnosable conditions and really at a bad place. There's a lot of veterans that go out and they get a job, and then maybe they go full throttle into this next job. And what I realize is that doesn't mean that they're necessarily at a good place inside, intrapersonally, and everything that's going on within them. So what my next mission is to help bring a lot of the wisdom that I've gained and the tools and processes that have helped individuals in recovery, and bring that more at large to the veteran population, to help those individuals that maybe from the outside looking in, things are going okay in their life. They've been able to hold their marriage together. They got a good job now. But inside, something's not in alignment. Something's still missing because of that void, because of that trauma and military transition. Yes. And it's affecting the way that they show up. It's affecting the contribution that they're making at their companies or in their community. And what saddens me the most is, man, if somebody stepped on those yellow footprints, or somebody raised their hand and went forward and did hard things for our country, for the benefit of our country, for them to not love their life after service, I mean, that's a terrible sacrifice that doesn't need to be made. So that's my next mission, is to help more veterans at large to make sure that everything inside of them is in alignment, so that they're experiencing the best version of their life as possible.
Best version of your life as possible, your full potential. A friend of mine, Matt, he's a coach. Now I can't even pronounce it, but he's something big in the Navy. He does like aerophysics or some crap. He's smart, man. He's really smart, smarter than me. I can't even, there's too many syllables. But this dude, he used to be a baseball coach and like an Olympic coach. And he used to say EFP, extract the full potential out of somebody. Not Garrett's potential, not Cam's potential, your potential, extracting your full potential, EFP. And it resonates with me so much, because these trip ups. And I giggled a minute ago, not because to be disrespectful to what you were saying, but what you were describing is what I see all the time. We call that maintaining military bearing, bro. Like, you're dying inside, suffering inside, stifling, suppressing all your emotions. You're like on the outside, just I'm maintaining military bearing. And there is a time and a place, of course, in life to do that.
That's it. Time and a place.
But on a regular day, it's not the time to maybe suppress every emotion so you can maintain bearing. And then, for lack of a better expression, white knuckle your way through life, because that energy is going to go somewhere, man. It's going to go somewhere.
That's right. Yeah, very cool. And meaning's a big part of that. And we'll touch on that a little bit more. So the other, this fundamental need that we have for meaning, I always understood meaning as something good that can be like a guiding star in our life. It can be, a pathway to experience some of that joy and kind of contextualize or make sense of our life for the endeavors that we're involved in. I thought that's what meaning was. And then what I've learned more recently is that meaning is also what provides our capacity to endure suffering. Ooh. So you think about a veteran who joined the military for that profound sense of meaning that comes from serving our country and protecting our loved ones, and that willingness to go into harm's way. Like, it has such meaning involved in it. Well, if you transition out of the military and you don't find some way to recapture that sense of meaning, not only are you losing that joy, you're also losing your capacity to deal with the hard times when they come. So that the stronger the sense of meaning that we have, the more that we can endure it. Just like if your sense of meaning is, I want to get stronger and I want to live longer and I want to be healthier, that's why I can endure the suffering in the gym or suffering on the road on a long run. It's because you have that sense of meaning that allows you to endure that pain and that suffering. And if you don't have a sense of meaning in your life, then it can be very hard to endure just the normal suffering that's going to come. I mean, there's always going to be ups and downs and obstacles and challenges in our life. They're never going to stop. But if you don't have that sense of meaning, then you don't even have the capacity to deal with those things. So something that might have seemed trivial while you were in the military, you get a parking ticket and that seems trivial. Well, now if you don't have that sense of meaning, that capacity anymore to deal with these hard times, then that thing that was so small before can be a huge boulder in your pack now and really kind of pile up and drag you down.
Yeah. The famous expression, the straw breaks the camel's back, but like the camel's back was weakened because all these other things, the connection, authenticity, the meaning, and the day-to-day, like just overall purpose of your life isn't there. So now when you get hit with, the boss that tells you this or that, or the small little thing, or the inconvenience, or the relationship, or whatever, it breaks you because those other things aren't there. Am I receiving that the right way?
Yeah, certainly. I think that's a great way to think about it. Or your rucksack got a lot smaller. Like you lost that meaning. If that rucksack is your capacity to endure the ups and downs and provide that resilience so you can continue to move through the stress. Well, if you lose that sense of meaning, it's that rucksack's getting really small. So now you can only fit a couple of small little rocks in there, maybe a few pebbles and a little bit of sand. You can't carry the things with you that you could before. And if you don't recognize that or understand what's going on there, then it can make your life very overwhelming and make it seem like it's almost too much.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I just want to tell everybody out there, if you're at that moment, like this will pass. Like it's not forever, right? Like, and I don't know. I'm a believer in faith, and I think if the universe doesn't want you around, they'll make sure that doesn't happen. You'll make sure you're not here. It'll happen, right? I just ask everybody out there, if you're at that moment where you're so overwhelmed and you feel like, man, I don't even feel like going on no more, and I don't have no purpose, Garret. I ain't got no meaning right now, man. You can find it still, and you never know who or what is coming down the road and what they'll mean to you or what you'll mean to them. And I've shared on here that I had a suicide attempt or strong ideation at one point. And now I had a COVID baby. I have older kids, but I had another baby like a few years ago. And this was after that. And that child brings so much joy to my life. And I think she's probably going to run a coup and take over a third world country one day. I don't know, a dictatorship, but I wouldn't even know that child, know where that child exists had I have took matters into my own hands. So you might be at that place where it feels like it's forever, but please know, like some people have come on here before and they've told people, just wait it out and seek help and seek, like you said earlier, that mentor, that somebody else that wants to guide you, because people do want to help. But at the same time, folks, none of us are mind readers. So please help us help you, in the words of Jerry Maguire. Help me, help you. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. Yeah, release that valve a little bit too. If you're carrying so much on your own, it's making you feel isolated and there's too many demons in your mind, release that valve. If you got to go out in the woods and talk it out and feel like you're at least getting it out, or if you can sit down and write about it, best is to go share it with somebody. So just share what's going on with you. So, think of that pendulum again. If you're in the darkest places, it's only a matter of time before that pendulum's going to start swinging back, but let's help it along the way. So let's share some of those things that we're struggling with. And if you're in a place where you can ask yourself this question, then ask, how do I get something valuable out of this suffering? I don't think we just suffer for suffering's sake. I don't think it's just some, mean thing that we have to go through. I think every time there's suffering or a challenge or an obstacle that's placed before us, there's a message behind it. There's some reason that we're suffering. It's feedback from our environment, from our experience. Try to find that feedback, try to understand where that suffering has come from, and then find some way to transmute that to something that can benefit you. Maybe you're suffering because you're being built up with a message that you can go share with others who are suffering. Yes. But there's some gem in there. There's some way that you can, let's get that pendulum starting to swing. And if you can do something to give it a little nudge, it's going to make a huge difference.
Yes. Please hear what he just said, y'all. And it feels like it's going to last forever, whatever like that. But man, it all passes. Even us, we're finite. Like, let's try to make the best of it while we can and try to find, like Dr. Viktor Frankl, a man's search for meaning. Try to find some meaning in the suffering. And you may not be able to see it right now, but just keep moving forward. You matter, whether you think you do or not, you matter. And remember, there's resources out there. If you're in the military or not, like Military One Source, right? You can call them. You can get 12 free sessions per thing. So that means if I got an issue with cats, I can get 12 free sessions. If I got an issue with dogs, I can get 12 free sessions, right? Utilize them. Utilize your chaplains. Those are resources. You may have a chaplain and you're like, this guy's kind of weird. This girl's kind of weird. Well, then go find a different one. There's somebody else, right? Your friend, your roommate, whoever it is, go to somebody else. You call 988. Like, there's people out there that want to help you, but they can't read minds. And as Garret just said, maybe this is an opportunity for growth or an opportunity for you to take it and use it as a way to help others. And maybe that's the only reason why you were placed with this burden at this time. I can't speak for the whole everything or make sense of all the things in the world, but I do know that we're better together and back full circle with that connection, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said. And that's it. And sometimes just the sharing of your pain and what you're going through, that can be of service to somebody else. Yes. Think about sometime a friend or somebody came to you and you were able to help them out, or even just able to sit there and hold space with them. That felt good after you did that. So just think about that. Maybe your burdens, maybe you're actually being of service to somebody else and you're actually providing something good in their life by giving them that opportunity. People feel good when we can help other people. So there's somebody out there that would love to be able to just sit and listen to you, love to be able to provide you some guidance, love to just be an ally for you. Don't take away that opportunity from them. So, use that as, if there's no other motivation to go out and start sharing what you're going through, if you're in a bad place, then think about that. How's it going to be of service to somebody else?
Yes. For sure. I mean, I just heard Simon Sinek. He was on some podcast or something talking about this, and how a friend went through something, and then he talked to the friend and was like, "Why did you not give me that opportunity to be there for you? Like, that's why I'm your friend. I want to be like you. You robbed me of that opportunity to try to be there. So it's okay not to be okay. But like my man Jose down in Cherry Point always says, don't stay that way. It's okay not to be okay, but don't stay that way, right? We can't. And maybe this is on you so you can use it for something, the experience, because there's nothing like when somebody that's went through something actually went through it, didn't like read about it or something like that, but actually went through it and can sit there and look at you and go, you know what, man? I've been there, or I can relate, right? Everybody's situation is unique, but also at the same time, this is no excuse for you to be a card carrying asshole, right? I listened to Dakota Meyer, Medal of Honor recipient, talking, right? And it was after he had got out and he kind of got a little crazy on Twitter and stuff. And I watched him speak recently this summer. And he was, talking to the counselor, and the counselor was like, he was telling her, like, you don't know how it feels to lose people in combat. You don't know how it feels like this. You don't know how it feels that. And the counselor's like, yo, you're right, man. But I also know what an asshole is, and that's what you're being. You know what I'm saying? So don't do that to others.
So you need that slap in the face to kind of wake you up and realize.
Like, I don't know what combat and this and that, but I do know what an asshole is, and you're being that. So don't bleed on others. Don't make others suffer because you're suffering. That's not nice. That's just not nice. It's not nice. That's what I tell my 4-year-old. Not nice.
Yeah, that's right. And to that point, sometimes we're afraid to share something because, like, man, nobody gets what I'm going through. Nobody's going to understand it. And maybe that's why we keep it to ourselves. Well, somebody might not understand what you're going through, but they know what it's like to go through a bad day. They know what it's like to have something not work out. So there is some understanding. There is the ability for some empathy there. There is ability for some people to kind of sit with you, even if they haven't been through it. It's like, look, I don't know what you're going through, but I know I've been through some bad times. And if you can tell somebody this, and this always kind of, gives me the goosebumps when I hear this, but hey, look, man, I don't know what you're going through right now, and I know you're in a bad spot, but I also know that I'm here with you, and we're going to be able to work through this together. I mean, if you can just hold that space and sit there with somebody, man, it's powerful what you can overcome.
Man, it so is. And y'all know it. You've been there. You've seen it. You felt it. It's real. It's real. And I know we always say misery loves company, but I think just humans love company, period. We're built for it, man. When we talk about these things of resilience, we think about moving forward and all these kind of things. Is we get bounce backs, keep moving forward, like Stallone and stuff. How are some ways that you remain resilient in your life, Garret?
That's a great question. So you mentioned bounce back, and I was going to say that. And we're talking about kind of doing an inventory and not carrying all these negative things with us into the next day, or not giving ourselves too much grief for the mistakes that we've made. If we can just live each day for that day and just bounce back, you wake up, you got a clean slate, you're defined by what you've done today. So forget about all those things you did yesterday. There's nothing you can do to change them now anyway. Let's just live for today. So let's bounce back. And this is, when I think of resilience, I think of our ability to bounce back, to come back to that center line. Everything you did yesterday, let's let that go. Let's focus on what we can control and what we can do today. Let's hold ourselves to that high standard today. And if we meet it, that's awesome. If we don't meet it, all right, tomorrow, another clean slate. Let's get back at it. And the more we can rack up some of those good days, and that's what's going to progress us in the right direction. The more the burden that we carry from the mistakes that we made yesterday and the things that we didn't do, man, it's just going to make everything so much harder. So that's a big thing that we can do to kind of, start moving in that direction. A couple of different things that I do, actually, while I'm thinking of it, I'll mention it right now. I think I told you I have this program that I'm going to offer to all of your listeners for anybody who wants to go through it. Really, all this is, it's the best things that I've found over the last 10 years that can help with the emotional, physiological, and spiritual well-being or resilience. And they're 4 daily practices. You can do them all in less than 15 minutes a day, all 4 of them together in less than 15 minutes a day. But it's the things that I've found that can help make that greatest kind of reset. So if you're in a dark place, if you're in a rough spot, you want a little bit of refinement, maybe you just feel like you're stuck, you're not really moving, or you know that somewhere inside that you're not showing up as the best version of yourself, and you want some fine-tuned adjustments that you can make, go check this out. You can find it at thewarriorreset.com. I'll send that link to you so you can show it in the show notes too. But you can go there, you can access it. There's a PDF that you can download, and it'll kind of walk you through some daily practices to help you do that. So we can look at, from a physiological perspective, one of my favorite things for bouncing back and helping bring coherence to our body. So whether we're pulled in that fight or flight state and our sympathetic nervous system is really acting up, it's bad to be there. It's bad to stay there, because when we're in that fight or flight state, we don't have access. One of the first things that our brain does to help preserve energy and help us get out of that immediate threat is it essentially takes our prefrontal cortex offline. So the biggest, the latest, the best developed part of our brain that helps us think through things and rationalize things and make good decisions and think about consequences, that part of our brain, that function of our brain is really kicked offline. If we're in that really fight or flight state, we got that cortisol and that adrenaline pumping. The only thing that we have that we can rely on is the muscle memory that we have. This is why we drill in all these things in the military and develop that muscle memory. So you don't have to think. Like, you have access to the habits that you have and the muscle memory that you've developed when you're in that fight or flight state. So this is an encouragement to individuals that if you want to develop some self-care practices, whether it's a gratitude practice or a daily walk or some breath work or a cold plunge, like whatever it is for you, if you want to have access to those things when you need them the most, you've got to practice and rehearse them when everything is going well. A gratitude practice ain't going to serve you if you haven't been doing it and now all of a sudden you're in a dark spot. So whatever that thing is for you, work on it, develop that muscle memory so you have access to it. In the recovery community, we always talk about reaching out to your sponsor every single day. The reason you do that is because you got to develop that muscle memory. So when something happens and you're in that dark place, you fall down that hole, you've got access to this behavior or this habit that you can do even when you're in that triggered state. So that said, what I used to understand is that you can't think your way out of that triggered state. Once you're in that fight or flight, you can't think your way out of it, because this prefrontal cortex that would help us think our way through it and rationalize things and contextualize things and help us understand that a threat's not a threat. I used to think that you couldn't think your way through it. But what I have found out is there is a way that we can communicate to our brain in order to calm ourselves down much more quickly and help us, promote that resilience and bring us back to a centered place. And the way that we communicate with our brain is through our breath. So one of the things that happens when you're triggered, if an explosion goes off or some threat kind of shows up, our body changes some physiological functions to prepare us for fight or flight. And one of the things that it does is it deepens our inhale and shortens our exhale, because this is going to hyperoxygenate our body and it's going to allow us to maneuver or move or fight more quickly or more readily. This function of our body, we usually can access and we can manipulate our breath function even when we're triggered. So our brain communicates to our body, let's prepare for fight or flight, and it does this by modulating our breath or altering our breath. We can also alter our breath. This isn't a one-way communication street. This is a closed-loop communication. So if we can alter our breath when we're in that triggered state, this communicates to our brain that, hey, the threat's no longer here, or we can calm down. So the way to do this is by doing the opposite of what our body naturally does when we get triggered. So if it naturally elongates our inhale, makes us really deep breaths, really short and shallow exhales, then all we need to do simply is to reverse that. Do a deep but quick inhale, usually over 4 seconds, I find works the best. And then do a long, slow exhale. If you can do it twice as long as your inhale, this is communicating to your brain that, that threat is past and now I can begin to calm down. So again, this would be something that you'd want to try. I encourage people to try it when you're not triggered so that you have access to this muscle memory when you do get triggered. And there's a lot of different little tools that you can have. This is one thing that I found, which is it's kind of like a charm that you wear around your neck, but it's a simple little straw. And this straw is designed so that if you're blowing through it, it makes sure that your exhale, it takes longer to exhale. So if you were to, if you have this hanging around your neck and you feel triggered, for one, you can fiddle with it if that helps. But also it's a reminder that, hey, let me pick this up and let me do this breath technique. Some people call it box breathing. I don't really like that because, it's pyramid breathing or trapezoid breathing because it's supposed to be a longer exhale than inhale. But this is just a great way to help calm us down. Again, if you do this, I encourage people to do it a couple times a day. You can do a couple of rounds. Actually, if you want me to lead you through it right now, I'll show you how I share it with all my clients or anybody that needs it.
I'm all about it, man. I'm all about it. And but you said, the emphasis is on you have to do these things when you're not in that stressed out state, when you're not triggered, so that way you have developed that muscle memory so you can apply it then, so you can do that cheat code from the Sega Genesis on your own body, right?
That's right. That's it. Yeah. So this is, if somebody calls me and they're triggered, or usually if I'm going to sit and meet with somebody, I always do this because this makes sure that we're both back to center and grounded. And if there's things that we're carrying with us on our mind that have us a little agitated, it allows us to release that and let it go a little bit. But this is, this is simply, maybe make a clip of this and we can just share it by itself. But simply bring your awareness now to your breath. If you need to, or if you feel comfortable, you can gently close your eyes. Just noticing the rise and the fall of your chest. Now for these next couple breaths, we're going to focus on a long, deep inhale in through our nose. We'll hold that for a moment. and a long, slow exhale through our mouth. So now focusing on our inhale, breathing in through your nose for 4, 3, 2, 1, holding that for a moment. And a long, slow exhale through our mouth for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Another deep, full inhale in through the nose. 4, 3, 2, 1. Holding that for a second. Long, slow exhale for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Allowing your breath to return to a natural rhythm and opening your eyes when you're ready.
That felt good. I can't lie. And I'm
something as simple as that.
We need tangible tools, man. And somebody out there listening to this episode right now, like, I'm gonna try that right now. So I encourage y'all, man. What was so profound to me, because I'm real familiar with box breathing because I've done certain trainings with that, was the inhale for 4 seconds, but slow exhale for 8 seconds. That's the flip, right? That's where you trick it at?
Yeah, at least 6 to 8 seconds. I mean, some people do it 4 in and then 6 out. But the thing is, we need to send a message to our brain that is opposite of the natural response that happens when we get triggered. Now, box breathing is great too. If you just do 4, 4, 4, and 4, that can be very helpful because it naturally does kind of slow down our exhale a little bit. But I found it be more profound and more helpful if we can elongate it. So if you do 3 in and 5 out, or 3 in and 6 out, whatever that is, just make sure that exhale is a little bit longer. So something like that, it took us less than a minute. Yeah. If you can do that a couple times throughout the day, then you develop that muscle memory and you have access to it. I've also found, an interesting, I'm always learning about trauma and the symptoms and everything. And one thing that I've come to understand is this ADD mind, or this monkey mind that I get, my inability to focus and this feeling of overwhelm. So I understand overwhelm not as having too much to do, but having a lot of things to do and not knowing what to do next. Like that's where the sense of overwhelm comes. And a lot of times I find that I feel overwhelmed most when I'm in this fight or flight state, or I'm a little bit triggered about something. What I found extremely helpful is if I'm feeling overwhelmed, maybe I'm working on 6 things. I'm trying to book flights. I'm trying to do this thing on this website. I'm trying to answer this email. And I've got all these things. And all of a sudden I feel stuck and I feel overwhelmed. I'm like, what the hell? I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't know what tabs I got open right now. If I stop and I do that breath technique, that's a lot more effective to me than, drinking a cup of coffee or, popping in a Zen or going for a walk or whatever somebody does. I found it a lot more effective. And even after a minute or 90 seconds of that, this clarity just kind of comes over me. And all of a sudden now I'm able to see those priorities again. And I'm able to understand what I'm supposed to focus on. So that's just one very simple little tool that I'd love everybody to have in their toolbox and make it available so that you can pull it up when you need it.
No, thank you for that, boss. Because like I said, but we don't know what we don't know. You know what I mean? And maybe, and a lot of times you say that to people, like I got so much multiple skeletal issues or whatever like that. But, I used to be like, yoga? I ain't doing no yoga, fool. And then, through getting humbled by life and gravity and stuff like that, I kind of became open to it. And I go yoga with Adrian all the time now because I go on YouTube, get yoga with Adrian, but it helps. And I think the filter is sometimes we're closed-minded. We're so macho or whatever the stereotypes that go along with that. But also we want something perfect to fix everything. And the way my new filter in life is now, is this going to make anything worse, Garret? No? All right, I'll try it. You know what I mean? Like,
I'll try
it.
Absolutely.
Might just be the thing that helps along with the other things. You doing that one breath technique is not going to make your whole life better, but it may just be the thing that stops you that day from making your life worse.
Absolutely. And sometimes that's a great win just in and of itself. And I share this with all of my guys in the recovery residence. Like, hey, you don't have to do everything now. It's normal for people that have started, they got a new lease on life, and now they want to hurry up and knock out 5 years worth of growth and progress and goals in the next 6 months. And I get it, man, because you feel like you got lost time you got to make up for. But hey, let's just remember that you're used to digging a hole every single day. Maybe today, if you just don't dig a hole, or if you don't take those scoops of dirt out, like, that's a win. Yes. So not sliding backwards is a tremendous win. And if we can give ourselves credit for that, It's like, all right, I didn't go to the gym today. You know what? But I also didn't eat a bowl of ice cream tonight. So maybe I didn't progress toward my fitness goals, but I didn't take a step backwards. And let's count that as a win.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. I actually talked about that on like 2 episodes ago, because up until 2 episodes ago, I've always been very binary in my own thinking. And I'm like all or nothing on everything, or I'm either progressing or I'm regressing. And I heard somebody break down what you just said. Like sometimes it's a battle of integers, and sometimes you're at like a -3, but you're like, yeah, I didn't go to -5. You know what I mean? I didn't make anything worse today. And that doesn't mean, let's all settle for less and be mediocre. But some days are like that. But I would always chalk that up as that was a loss. I suck, you piece of, you garbage ass. And I'm coming more into a line of where you're describing right there, because it does help you not be so overwhelmed when you're not hating yourself for, the workout you didn't do. It's like, yeah, but I did, like you said, I didn't eat a bowl of ice cream. I didn't make it worse, fool.
Yeah.
And that's a win.
Well, that's a great reframe. And that's a way, so I'm coming back to like some of the things that I do that really help. So that's a great reframe. So let's say we get to the end of our day and we got all these tabs open of all these mistakes or all these, things that we didn't follow through on, or the setbacks that we had. Well, one way to start closing those tabs is saying, how could it have been worse? Now, this isn't making excuses for, and this isn't trying to invite the same behavior into our life the next day. But man, I had 2 beers today, man. That was a huge failure. Well, you know what? I didn't drink 6. I didn't drink half a bottle of whiskey. So it could have been worse. All right, let me close that tab. I'm not going to worry about that one anymore. All right, I only worked out for 20 minutes today. I just got a little stretching in. I really wanted to hit, an hour and a half workout, and I didn't do that. Yeah, well, I did 20 minutes, and it could have been worse. All right, let me close that tab. So it's like it's contextualizing these losses or these setbacks that we've had so that we don't internalize them and carry them forward as though we're damaged or we're just not good enough. It's like giving ourselves credit for the things that we've done, and also giving ourselves credit for the bad things that we've done, that it wasn't worse. Maybe you didn't knock it out of the park with the presentation that you gave yesterday, or maybe you didn't do as well as you wanted to last quarter at work. Yeah, well, you could have done worse. So let's recognize that, and let's recognize the possibilities there, so we can close those tabs and we don't have to carry that crap in our ruck for the next day and moving forward. So that's a big thing I like to do, is just, nothing I can do to change what happened yesterday.
Yes.
Let me recognize that it could have been worse, so I can give myself a little reprieve or have a little compassion for how it was. And then in that same vein, one thing I find extremely helpful is, so a lot of times when we're going to bed at night, we'll have all these tabs open. We're thinking about all the things we didn't do, or all the things that are still on our to-do list. Well, the thing that I understand is that those thoughts that we have on our mind when we go to bed, they're going to play over like a tape loop for the entire time that you're sleeping. So if you're fretting over something when you go to bed, like you're reliving that and you're really ingraining that into your behavior the whole night, as you're sleeping. So what if we can replace that with something positive? Give ourselves something positive to think about. This is one of the other exercises that you'll find in the Warrior Reset. It's called a mirror exercise, and it's really quick inventory. Maybe it takes 90 seconds, but it's an opportunity to give yourself an inventory for the good things that happened throughout the day and the ways that you've grown, the temptations that you avoided, maybe the things that went bad, but they didn't go worse. It's an opportunity to give yourself that recognition. And the most powerful time to do it, you can do it any time of day and it's helpful. The most powerful time to do it is right before you go to sleep at night. Brush your teeth, you're about to turn off the light, do it real quick in the mirror, and then go to bed, because then that tape is going to be what plays over for the rest of the night.
And that's part of that Warrior Reset list, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
yep.
that's good. And I love that you said brush teeth.
Yeah, we already covered two. So the what's that now?
No, I love that you said brush teeth too, because there's some bad breath out here in this world. So I'm glad that you emphasized that. That should be on the list too.
Yeah, that's right. You're not out in the field anymore. You don't have the excuse.
Brush
you don't just
teeth.
pop in. Yeah, that's right. So that's two of the things in the Warrior Reset. I'll leave a little bit of mystery, so somebody go find it. Another thing I really has been extremely helpful in my life, honestly, is cold exposure. So I do have a cold plunge now, but even before I had that, I would just do in my shower with 30 to 60 seconds of cold water. Man, does this suck? Man, do I not want to do it every single day? But damn, don't I feel incredible after it's done? And when you can do it in the morning, there's a lot of benefits of doing it in the morning. For one, if you can do one thing hard in the morning, it kind of sets the trend for the rest of the day. And like you're already carrying a win with you before you even step into the day. And you've shown yourself that you can face something that's uncomfortable, that you're willing to face something uncomfortable, and you're able to overcome it. But beyond the mindset shift that it helps affect, also physiologically, I've found just profound changes in my nervous system and in the way that I respond to stress. So I didn't even realize how profound the difference was until a couple of weeks ago. I was driving in a Jeep with my son, and my son was in the back seat, and we're driving along this road. There's like hardly any traffic. He says something. I turn over. I look at him, and I look back in front of me, and some dude just decided to make a left turn across a double lane, and and I almost hit him. It was like everything I could do on this old 1999 Jeep Wrangler. All up on the brakes. We slid, all four tires sliding, and I came like inches away from hitting the back of this car. What caught my attention the most was a minute later, 30 seconds later, when I'm pulling away from that near mishap. I was like, why am I not feeling triggered right now? Why am I not all tense? Why isn't every muscle in me just like buzzing with this anticipation of this accident? And I felt as calm as if I spent the last 2 hours on the beach reading a book. And what I realized was, by putting myself in this stressor every morning, now I'm doing it with a cold plunge, but by exciting my nervous system and putting myself in that pressure, it's really maximized this emotional resilience, so that when I face something like that, I don't get I don't get in that fight or flight state. I don't get all worked up, and it doesn't linger for a long time after it. So there's other things that we can do. So that's a powerful physiological benefit that you can get from that cold exposure.
No, I love that, because it's funny you described that, and I'm a big fan of that as well, the cold plunging thing. And I was surprised at myself, like, am I turning to a sociopath? Because just on the base I'm at, there was a deer ran right across. I'm talking about, like, all I saw was deer, and it was gone.
Yeah,
it would have ruined me in the car, and it had a little buck on it or whatever. And I just was like, all right. And I just kept going. And I was like, man, you turning a sociopath? What kind of mess they got you on right now, man?
Yeah.
But that makes sense, because the nervous system is, and I'm not bragging about it, but like maybe it's trained to be able to deal with stressful because literally when you jump in that cold plunge, you go,
Yeah.
So,
and every morning, I don't want to do it. Every morning I'm getting mad. I'm like pissed off. I'm like hitting stuff. I'm like, I don't want to do this. And it's just, my body fighting against it.
But if you don't go on Amazon,
and you get out of there in the way that
I'm sorry, go ahead. I cut you off.
Yeah. Please go ahead. Yeah. If you got something that you like, I mean, they're cheap now. They're like $50.
Yeah.
And if you live anywhere north of, South Carolina right now, it's cold enough. You just fill it up with water, leave it outside. It's going to be perfect when you get in there in the morning.
Or you said you just did the cold shower, right? Like you just did cold shower.
That's
for
right.
30 to 60.
That's another way to do it.
What you recommend for time wise? Because some people are like, I'll sit here for 9 minutes. I remember I did it one time, and my boy was like, dude, you're going to die in there. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Well, now I finally have a setup at my house, and I kind of hacked this a little bit. So you can buy the cold plunge. They're like $50. I mean, you can get them so cheap now. So there's no reason not to have one for anybody. But over the summertime, I'd only get it maybe once a week when I'd go and get all the ice, and I come back and fill it up. So if you get into this, you'll also see that they have chillers that they'll sell you. Now the ice bath itself might be $50, but those chillers are like $600 to $1,000. But what I found was the same damn technology, the same companies making these things, they market it for a cold plunge, it's $600 to $1,000. But if you market it for an aquarium, it's like $250. So I bought one of these things on Amazon. It's an aquarium chiller, and it was $250. And now I use that to keep my cold plunge down at a nice temperature.
Ooh,
but now that I have now that I got that set up, now I always have a cold plunge at that temperature, so it takes me a minute and a half. I go out, I take off my short, jump into my boxers in the morning, and then grab a towel, and it's a minute and a half, however long I'm going to do in there. And I'm only doing, this morning I did a minute and a half because there was 5 inches of snow all around it. So I figured that was hard enough just to kind of walk out in the snow barefoot and jump in. But normally I'll do 2 to 3 minutes, depending on how cold it is. I'm slowly cranking it down a little bit, making it more intense, but it doesn't take long at all.
That's awesome. And the benefits. And I've heard also like the anti-inflammatory benefits of it. And just what I think is beautiful though is like you already started your day off with something hard. So the rest of the day, like downhill. I remember I was out in Iwakuni. We used to run up and go to the castle every week. And they have a castle out there. And the guys I was with would just be like, well, the rest of the day is literally downhill. So let's just roll with it.
That's it.
But it's putting that challenge before you. That's not traumatic, but that's still going to callous, take away from Goggins, but callous your mind a little bit, callous your body, callous your soul a little bit so you can weather and endure the day before you. Because there's also a part of this whole thing that people get complacent and you lose momentum and you stagnate, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So putting that one little challenge in front of you that you can overcome, and you grease the wheel a little bit and you have Well, I don't know. I hop out of that thing. Like no matter how tired I am when I get in, you hop out of it, you're wide awake. And now I'm like energized. You look at some of the other physiological benefits, as you mentioned, the inflammation. Also, for anybody that wants to crease up their metabolism a little bit, you jump in there, you chill your body down, and then your body has to fight to get back to equilibrium and bring your body temperature back up. That whole time, your metabolism is skyrocketing because you're burning all those calories to get back up. And then the other, oh man, there was one more benefit. All right, for all the guys out there that are worried about this, or all you ladies, like it tightens up your skin, something like, so, you put your face in there a little bit. I mean, it can do just amazing things to your skin. And then, man, what was the last thing? Oh, the dopamine increase. So they say, 300 to 500% increase in your dopamine, which is equivalent to, some people say, equivalent to cocaine. The difference is that cocaine's only going to last a couple of minutes, whereas the increase from the cold plunge can last for a couple of hours.
Look at that.
So if you want something to really kind of boost your day, and you don't want to, chug a triple espresso, and you want to like wake up and you want to feel good, and you want to, man, if you could start your day with that feeling that like anything's possible and you're kind of charged up, ready to go, I mean, that's a great way to start the day.
Yes, it is.
For as much as it sucks, and every morning I'm like, man, I got to do it again. Then just overcome it. Do 60 seconds in there. Do whatever you got to do. Do it in the cold. Do it in the shower. Take your normal shower. Spend as much time in there as you want to. But when you go to turn off that shower, crank it to cold. Crank it as cold as it'll get, and then just hold it. I mean, that first shock, it's going to hit you, and it sucks. But then you stand there for a couple of seconds, 5, 6, 7 seconds. It starts to suck a little bit less, and by 20, 30 seconds is not that bad. And then you'd think that you'd be freezing and miserable the whole time. But even when I was doing the cold showers, you step out, and I mean, you feel warm again pretty quickly, and it's not that bad. So for all the benefit, and there's few things that we can do that provide so much benefit so easily for free or for cheap, and make a big difference for you.
Man, science is cool, man. That's cool. So cold plunge, the breathing you broke down to us, and then also the warriorreset.com with those 4 daily exercises. That's good knowledge, man. Because we don't know what we don't know. And for anybody out there is like, I don't want to do that. Well, it won't make nothing worse. So just try it. Stop being closed-minded.
That's right. Yep, absolutely. And it's not going to fix all your problems overnight, but at least it's going to either slow your backward slide, or it's going to help start chipping in the right direction.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Oh man.
And the last thing, so you mentioned it before, and I talked about it, but the TEDx talk that I did, for anybody that's curious and want to go check it out, the best place to do that is at unspokentrauma.vet. The name of the TEDx talk is the unspoken trauma that all veterans face. And please go check it out. If you know a veteran, if you love a veteran, if you're just kind of curious about what veterans are going through, go check that out. It's 10.5 minutes, and it's going to provide a framework or a context that's going to help you much better understand what veterans experience and where a lot of the challenges and suffering comes from after they get out of the service.
I love that point. You said that in the TED Talk, and you just said it again, so I'm going to reiterate it. But it's not just for the veterans. It's also for those who that love and that may have to deal with us and work around us and try to understand us better. So it's really for all audiences. And I think it's also applicable. I mean, I was thinking about it while I was listening to it. I think this, like anybody leaving any first responder role, anybody leaving like teaching or coaching or athletics, like that was your identity. Any type of job or occupation that is demanding and you find your identity in it, I promise you will take something away from this TEDx talk, because there's so much of that connection, that authenticity, and that meaning that I think holds a lot of us back from reaching our full potential, because we don't tap into those things. So I appreciate you. Unspokentrauma.net, y'all, and it'll be in the show notes as well.
.vet, V-E-T, as in veteran.
.vet, my bad.
There you go.
Victor Echo Tango. Victor Echo Tango.
There you go.
Vet. Yeah. My bad, man. Is there any other tangible resources or anything else you want to hit on, boss?
Man, there's so much that's out there. Every individual that's in a rough place, I know they took a different journey or a different path to get there. So, there's not, these are some of the ones that I found most efficacious for everybody, regardless of your situation or circumstance. If I could share one last message, though, for anybody that's listening, we said this before, but I want to reiterate because it's that important, that valuable. For anybody out there who's in a dark spot right now, or you're going through something challenging, I want you to know first and foremost that you are lovable and acceptable just as you are. And know that there's tools, there's resources, there's things out there that can help you get to a better place. So know that you're worthy of it, know that you're deserving of it, and know that it's possible to move to a better place. Certainly reach out, share your story, look online, try to find some resources, go check out the Warrior Reset. You can apply some of those things. I challenge you to do them all for at least 10 days, but maybe you like one and you continue to do it after that. If it's providing value for you, do something. Just know if you're sitting in this bad place right now and you don't know if you're deserving of feeling better, know that that's not true. Know that regardless of what you've done in the past, regardless of the mistakes that you've made, that you are lovable and acceptable just as you are. The fact that you're still here and that God or the universe hasn't wiped you out yet is evidence enough that there's something here for you and that we want you here and we want you around.
Yes, lovable, and you matter, and we need you. This world's better with you in it, or else, like you said, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, would have already wiped you out and solved that. So please don't sit in that. Like, I had one guy on here, we surfed together before, and he was up here. He said, man, I was sitting on my couch, and how I fixed my depression was I just got up and I went and did something. Like, just something it's not going to fix everything, but to just sit and ruminate and to dwell. You got to take off that comfortable blanket that is that depression and just get out and start trying something different. So don't forget, y'all, the warriorreset.com and then unspokentrauma.vet. Unspokentrauma.vet, man. Man, Garret, I appreciate you, boss. And if you're anything like me, and I say this to a lot of guests, like we get off of here and I always go, you know what I should have said? Man, you are welcome here anytime, my brother, like anytime. I appreciate your service. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for being part of the solution instead of just stating the problems, because you shared just tons of just tangible resources. And not just that, but like the validation in that it's okay not to be okay. And you described a lot of ways to get better, man. So I just tell you, thank you for that, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Cam. I really appreciate this, and any opportunity in the future, anytime some topic comes up, some question comes up, and you want to jump into it, let's hit record and let's digest it together and try to find some clarity or try to find some path out of that together. I'm happy to come back anytime. I really appreciate the work that you're doing. Putting a voice to what a lot of people are thinking, giving that permission, normalizing conversations around tough things. That's going to be the pathway to get to a better place. That's what's going to help save our brothers and sisters and help us, kind of move forward to a better place. Because the reality is right now, it's not good.
Not good.
And we can't stay this way, and things got to change. And you're helping change that. So I really appreciate you.
You are too, brother. And I thank you. And anybody out there, man, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude or just shut up. No, I'm just playing. Don't shut up. You go change it. You take that energy channel in the right ways, right? But hey, like I always say, man, like it or not, we're all we got. It's okay not to be okay, but like my man Jose and Cherry Point say, don't stay that way, man. Don't stay that way. You just heard a lot of tangible resources and ways to do it. Don't just shuttle them things out. Pursue it. Go to the warriorreset.com. Look up the TED Talk. Like, make yourself better so that way you can live out your best potential while you're here, because we're here anyway. We might as well make the best of it. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Ladies and gentlemen, universe, whatever, aliens, I don't care. Creatures of all kinds, human beings, animals, all the like. Anybody who sat here and listened to this, I appreciate you. Thank you for being a light in this world, man. I appreciate you, Garret, man. And like Viktor Frankl said, we talked a lot about the man's search for meaning, but what is to give light must endure burning. Just know that, y'all. We all want to be a light, but what is to give light must endure burning. So keep shining on, keep pressing on. And just remember, this show is sponsored by nobody, baby. You're welcome for my Keith Sweat rendition right there. And just remember, this show has no affiliations with anything official. If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude or shut up. I appreciate y'all, man. Make good choices and take care of one another. Much love to you all.